Welcome to the Anxious Love Coach podcast, a place for creating meaningful, conscious, secure, long-term partnerships. Here, we talk relationship anxiety and creating healthy, magnetic dynamics within partnership to help you feel confident and alive within committed partnership. My name is Natalie Kennedy, and I'm your host. I'm a relationship anxiety coach and meditation teacher. I've worked with hundreds of clients battling anxiety, and after experiencing extraordinary shifts in my own healing relative to partnership, now combine my lived personal experience and professional training to help others trust themselves within relationship and in their lives. I've been to the edge and back with my now husband from relationship anxiety and come out confidently to the other side. I want to pass the tools I've learned along to you to help you trust yourself in relationships and also create magnetic, hot dynamics with your partner. I believe lots of mainstream relationship advice today can make us anxious and dissatisfied. So let's jump in and normalize challenges that modern relationships and real people go through while also giving you tools to trust yourself, drop the shame, and alchemize your messy, twisted relational truths into profound inner wisdom and aliveness. If you haven't yet, be sure to join my communities over on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Anxious Love Coach. You can also request a 30-minute relationship anxiety assessment with me depending on availability, or ask me a question over on my website at www.anxiouslovecoach.com. I've also got a wonderful relationship anxiety meditation available to you as thanks for subscribing to my email list. Thanks for being here and enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Sorry I missed a week. It was a lot. I started Anxious to Spacious a couple weeks ago, and it has been nothing short of amazing. I have gotten more feedback on that program, in my perception, than any other program I've ever run, and it's awesome. I'm just so excited. So I took a week off to just catch up on life. Anyway, I am here with my mimosa. Just kidding. I'm pregnant. Don't drink alcohol while you're pregnant. But I just want you to know that if you mix a Pellegrino, like half Pellegrino with orange juice and add a little lime, it's pretty good. Anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. But I like small talk. I know some of you guys might hate it, but I find small talk to be actually a nice buffer sometimes. Okay. So what we're going to cover today is if you feel like your partner doesn't care, and there's a lot of spectrum in caring. If you feel like they don't care about your emotional needs, if you feel like they don't care about keeping the kitchen clean, if you feel like they don't care about their personal hygiene, just whatever you think they should care about that you perceive they don't care about, this episode is for you. This is for you also if your partner has accused you of being careless. So this goes both ways. What I want to offer you today in this episode is a reframe to have better conversations instead of stupid conversations about who cares more about who and about what. Because I don't know about you, but I've had these conversations and I found them to be supremely unproductive and unsatisfying. And both people end up feeling totally rejected and unheard, and nobody gets their needs met. So I've been on both sides where I've been the accuser of my partner being careless, and I've also been on the receiving end of being called careless. And I want to give us a different way of looking at caring. I'm going to try to keep this short because it's actually a relatively simple concept, but I got this idea because I had a client earlier this week reach out to me. I offer WhatsApp support to some of my clients, and she was saying, my partner got really mad at me for this little thing and said I didn't care. And I do care. But it just didn't feel fair that I was being accused of not caring. And the more we dug under it, on the one hand, it's accusing someone of not being caring is not cool. But at the same time, once we dug under the surface, what became really evident is not that she doesn't care, but she doesn't care to the same extent that he does about something. And that was not evident to either of them. She wasn't aware or able to articulate that she didn't care to the same extent that he did. So she took responsibility for something that had she had a higher priority on, she might have put a level of attention into that thing that he would have put attention into it if he perceived it as his responsibility. This is how miscommunications happen. I'm going to talk about both sides today. of whether you're the one accusing your partner of being careless or perceiving them as being careless, or if they are accusing you of being careless. I'm going to help you on both sides today, and you're going to have a better understanding of this. So I'll start with the partner that has, let's say you've been accused of being careless. Here's what I want you to understand. If you're with a partner who's a good person, who just maybe doesn't have access to good words, and let's be real, if you're in your early 20s, you probably don't have access to a lot of good words. So I'm going to give you some better words to use today. It has taken me 13 years being with the same man for me to realize how to have good words about things. And to be fair, sometimes I'm rambling on my podcast and I don't always have good words, but I do my best. I'm really nitpicky on language for this reason, because if you're not, wherever you have a blind spot in your language, you have a potential for being interpreted in a way that you didn't intend, which is why I'm very nitpicky. Okay, so if they're a good person, they just don't have good words. When they accuse you of being careless, what if instead of taking that personally and hearing them saying you don't care, here's what they're really saying. And I might have to say this twice because it took me a second to articulate this. What they're really saying is, I don't perceive that you're aware that you don't care about this specific thing that I care about to the same extent that I care about it. So when you act like you do care about it to the same extent that I do, you put me in a position to believe that I can depend on you when I actually can't. I'm going to say that again. That's a long sentence. When someone is accusing you of being careless, what they're really saying is, I don't perceive that you're aware that you don't care about this specific thing that I care about to the same extent that I care about it. So when you act like you do care about it to the same extent that I do, you put me in a position to believe that I can depend on you when I actually can't. So it's essential, if you are someone who regularly gets accused of being careless, please know that you do care. You are a caring person. However, you might be lacking in a skill, and that skill is boundaries. They're actually not asking you to care more about them, which is mind-blowing if you think about it. When someone says you're being careless, they're not saying you don't care about me. They're actually saying you don't care about you. And I'm asking you to care more about you and name your own boundaries so I can know where you stop and where I can pick up after you, where I can meet you. So it's essential to be aware of be aware of your capacity, which means your ability and willingness to be able to do something. And B, it's not enough to just know your capacity. You need to be able to suavely articulate that to someone. This is one of my biggest pet peeves in the whole world. I hate people pleasers. This is why. I hate when people say, yeah, I can totally do that, when they can't. And they're not even aware that they can't. They have no idea that they're going to run into a time management issue down the line. But in the meantime, I'm depending on them, trusting that their words have integrity and mean something. Okay? So y'all who are people pleasers, you're not pleasing me at all. You're very upsetting. And I say this with total compassion because I have it in me to be a people pleaser. But now that I understand that people pleasing doesn't actually please anybody, because you actually end up disappointing people in the long run because you aren't aware of your own capacity or willingness, you end up pissing people off in the long run. So just know that your people pleasing, it's not even working. So stop. When you're sloppy with your word, you end up screwing everybody else over because you weren't willing to disappoint them in the next 5 seconds. But you ended up royally disappointing them 2 hours from now, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now. All right? So obviously there's another conversation about people pleasing and shame and all that stuff, and I'm afraid of disappointing people. But listen, there's the 5 seconds from now disappointment, and then there's the 2 months from now disappointment. And I hate to say this about people pleasers sometimes. This is just my mini little rant, forgive me. But sometimes people pleasers aren't willing to set a very basic boundary, and then they end up really resentful, and then they blow up and they set this really harsh, cruel boundary. And then when people respond back to that harsh, cruel boundary with defensiveness and anger, they're like, well, fuck you. I'm setting boundaries now. And it's no, there's kind ways to set boundaries. Granted, a lot of people pleasers, they tend to swing from one extreme to the other, where they have no boundaries, and then they swing the opposite extreme to have all the boundaries and the most rigid boundaries ever. And to be fair, I think that's a very healthy, natural progression. But just know that going from no rules to all the rules it's more blind rebellion. It's not totally conscious. It's like a reaction to something that's not positive. But ideally, hopefully, we can develop fluidity and find a space in the middle. So if you have a tendency to not be aware of your own capacity, just know it's far better to pause and kind of assess whether you actually have the ability to do what you say you're going to do, and to say, I'm sorry, I don't have the capacity, or, to be honest, I don't care about this thing as much as you do. So if you want it your way, you should do it. I've said that to my husband, and he's free to say that to me too. There's this one Instagram account that I follow called Hey Beginner Wife. I love her so much. I remember one slide that she wrote a few months ago, and it's really stuck with me. She said, if you want something done your way, dare I say, do it yourself. Cheerfully. All right? Because we can certainly control people and make them do things, but we can't make people care to the same extent that we care about things. And it's exhausting and demoralizing to even try. How could you possibly get someone to care about something to the same extent that you do? We have different histories, different childhood wounds, different needs, and different things mean different things to different people. So given what you've gone through and what I've gone through in my life, we're going to care about different things. And the same thing is true when you enter a partnership. All right. So let's go to the other side. Maybe you have a partner who you perceive as careless. I'm going to tell you what kind of conversation you should be having. First of all, don't tell them that you think they don't care. It's not going to end well for you. First of all, it's not even true, and it's a very sloppy statement. I would say that this is being sloppy with your language, because feelings aren't facts. Actually, I would say feelings are facts. Like if you feel sad, that's an irrefutable fact. However, the thought that you have that goes with the sadness might not be true. The story that you have alongside the feeling might be inaccurate. The story is you don't care, and that is arguable. So I like to stick to facts when I'm having conversations with people in my life. I know better than to tell someone you don't care, because I have no way of jumping in their body and knowing that for sure. So it's a sloppy statement. It's not even true. It's a black and white argument of caring versus not caring. It's a yes or no, and they're likely going to defend themselves, because who wants to be told that they don't care? I don't, because it's not a matter of caring versus not caring. To care means to attach importance to something or someone. But here's the thing a lot of you guys aren't realizing. Caring is relative, which means it might not be true that they don't care at all, but it might be true that they don't care about something specific to the same extent that you do. And that's okay. You just need to make it safe for the other person to admit that. That needs to be okay. Like, I don't care. I like dogs, but I don't care about dogs that much in comparison to my friend who is like a dog person. My friend should not have an expectation that like I am going to go out of my way to watch dog videos. I don't care about dogs that much. I am a bird person, and I don't expect the people in my life to care about birds. I bought a birdhouse here in Colombia. We have parrots that land on our balcony all the time. And around 5:30 every day, this like horde of Amazon parrots comes and lands on our roof, and there's a couple macaws that come by. And sometimes we invite our friends over at 5:30, hoping that they're going to see it. And honestly, they're not bird people, so they don't care. At least not to the same extent I do. They're like, oh, cool, green bird. And I'm like, green bird? Don't you see how they like turn their head? Do you see the way they like waggle their butts when they walk? They don't, that doesn't matter to them. To them, it's green bird. So we can't make other people care to the same extent about things that we do. Make it safe for people to not care to the same extent about things, but it doesn't mean they don't care at all. So instead of arguing about whether or not someone cares about something, which only leaves them two options, realize that there is a spectrum of caring about things. You can maybe ask, do you have the capacity to prioritize this thing that's important to me? Do you have the willingness to do this thing? Or this is really important to me. I'd say it's like a level 9 out of 10. How important is that to you? And if they're like, well, compared to this thing in my life, it's like a 3 out of 10, right? And my husband actually utilized, this is a tool from Annie Lala, who is a coach I respect. She uses a lot of rankings in her relationship. She said, I'm feeling angry on a scale of 5 out of 10, or I'm feeling sad, it's a 8 out of 10, or I'm slightly anxious, 1 out of 10, right? And so we can communicate to our partners with these ranges that help them gain reference points about our inner experience. So remember that everybody has different priorities. It's not about I care or I don't care. To me, the bills that I need to pay by tomorrow with a deadline are a higher priority than taking out the trash. I only have 24 hours in a day. I have to somehow stack things based on what's most important to me. But to someone else, the trash being taken out might be more important than the floor being swept today. And when you put two people together with different hierarchies of priorities, a lot of misinterpretations can happen when one person's priorities don't align with the other person's priorities. And it might not be personal, but we take it personal, do we not? So the response to this is not to try to get the other person's priorities to change, which is what I notice most people do, but to honestly meet both ourselves and the other where they/we are. You must each be aware of your needs and your boundaries and make them safe to exist. And for the record, the trash being taken out, not a need. Cleanliness might be a need. A relief from stress and overwhelm is a need. Perceiving that I'm on the same page with you in life is a need. But trash getting taken out, that's not like a universal priority to everyone. And so just because it's important to you doesn't mean it's that important to your partner. Now, there might also be like different stages of when the trash is taken out. When the trash is 75% full, you might perceive that as full, whereas your partner might perceive 100% as being full. So a lot of times it's just a matter of perception. Where is that threshold where something gets pushed to be a higher priority? And realize that's going to be different for each person. So get under the surface level stuff and communicate what's actually there. Obviously, there's going to be so many nuances to this, and maybe you're listening and you're like, well, what about this situation? What about that one? I don't know. There's a million different situations and a million different ways to perceive these situations and a million different ways to look at these situations, and I can't cover them all in one podcast. So I trust you to be able to practice discernment. And if you have a partner who really genuinely is disrespectful and unkind, well, we have to look at two things. Either that's just who they are and they hate you, in which case, why are you in a relationship with them? Or it could be, and this is the case, I'm going to go on a little tangent off script for a moment and say this. If you're one of those people that's perceiving my partner doesn't care about my emotional needs, you might be right. It might be that they're just a psychopath or a narcissist, but at the risk of a few people accidentally misinterpreting me and applying this relationship to a relationship with a narcissist, which is going to be very damaging, by the way, I don't recommend you do that. 99% of the population is not having narcissistic personality disorder. So more than likely is your partner might be prioritizing their own emotional needs over yours. And when is that going to happen? That's going to happen if they perceive an attack. And it might not be that you're intending to attack, but it could be landing as one. And so that is where it can be helpful to have a mediator or figure out what it is that you're doing that is making them feel like they need to put their defenses up. So again, either this is just who they are and there's no amount of anything you can do or change. They're just going to be defensive all the time. Or you might actually examine whether you have any unconscious swords in your dynamics. So if you're perceiving that your partner doesn't care about your emotional needs, it might mean that at the moment they're prioritizing their own emotional needs over yours because their own wounds are getting poked. Not easy stuff, but it's not personal. If that's what's happening and your partner is perceiving an attack, it's not personal. They're prioritizing caretaking their own emotions, and they can't caretake your emotions while they're busy caretaking their own. So how do you prevent this? You put them in a position where they don't need to caretake their own emotions because you never attacked them in the first place. And how do you do that? In simple terms, don't position yourself as a victim, if possible, even if you were. And I realize that's hard. So again, there's always so much nuance to this, but in my experience, if I come to my partner and I position myself as the victim in some kind of dynamic we had, I have automatically positioned him as the perpetrator. And my wonderful hearted man does not want to be seen as that. So he's going to defend himself and he's going to get wounded. My husband is amazing by this point, actually. He's 35 years old and he's got a lot of emotional awareness. So he can handle it, but he won't like it. He won't be enthusiastically showing up to caretake my emotions, because there is going to be a part of him that's like, why does she have to see me as the villain right now? Right? So he can handle it. He'll be there for me, but it's not going to be as yummy as if I own my part and don't position myself as the victim. So that's kind of my little tangent. Again, obviously, I'm not going to be able to cover everything in this one episode, but I hope that you get something out of that. All right. Well, friends, I'm going on maternity leave in January, and I'm taking my last one-on-one clients of the year. And I just wanted to let you know I'm offering a promo through the month of November. So I haven't been doing long programs for a while, and I actually haven't been doing assessments in a while. I don't know if my intro and outro say that I do, but at the moment I don't. I'm sorry. But if you're stuck in a relational pattern that you'd like to change and you'd like to get a second brain and a pair of eyes basically at your service, I'm currently offering 4 sessions plus WhatsApp support, which is literally my favorite thing ever. I love going back and forth with my clients throughout the week. So there's 4 sessions, WhatsApp support, plus my signature relationship anxiety online course, Both Feet In. And all of that is for $2,000. So it's going to be 4 sessions over the course of 1 month for one person. And my sessions typically range 90 plus minutes. So I like to take my time. It's an hour and a half to 2 hours. Honestly, this is probably one of the best one-on-one deals I've ever run. And right now it's open, but once my schedule is full, that's it. I'm closing until after I'm done with maternity leave and I'm anxious to get back to work. And that's probably going to be back. I'll probably be back in May or June of 2025. So that's through the month of November. If you want to get a month with me and do an intensive mentorship, we can talk relationships, we can talk your creativity, we can talk anxiety, we can talk emotions, we can talk polarity, we can talk communication. Whatever you want to make your intention be for this month, I would have a blast doing it. So feel free, if you want to have a conversation beforehand, message me on Instagram at Anxious Love Coach, and I'll send you a little page of what I can and can't offer, what my limitations are. And you can let me know hey, this is what I want. This is a challenge I'm working with, and this is what I want help with over the next month. And I'll let you know if I can help you, and we can decide if we want to do that. So I'm only taking 4 or 5 women, and then that's it. I'm done for a while. And also, by the way, I'll probably be taking a hiatus from podcasting during that time, starting in January. And I'll be in touch mainly via email and Instagram stories. So please be on my email list. Please. I want to be in touch with you. And I also want to stay relevant. And just for that, I gift my new subscribers a free relationship anxiety meditation. So I'll include the link to join my email list in the show notes. And I have two more lastlies. Lastly, number 1 and lastly, number 2. Lastly, number 1, if you've been on the fence in your relationship for a while, check out Both Feet In. It will really, really help you get under your anxious thoughts about your relationship. It's going to help you process old emotions that might be hitchhiking their way into your relationship today and making it really impossible for you to be present. At the same time, it'll give you so much more freedom to articulate yourself in a way to your partner in a way that they can understand. A lot of partners of my clients are really afraid that their anxious partners are going to leave them or attack them. And so they put their walls up and their hearts aren't open. And one of the most wonderful gifts we can offer our partners if we have relationship anxiety is the gift of an open heart. So we can learn to be vulnerable without nitpicking and having our swords up, ready to defend ourselves in case they don't respond perfectly. No, we can be safe places for ourselves and others. So if you're interested in that, I'll link that in the show notes. There's some testimonials from previous students in Both Feet In. Feel free to ask me anything about it as well, if you're on the fence about Both Feet In. And lastly, if you love my work, please consider sponsoring me on Patreon. I appreciate it so much. I offer discounts, some exclusive content, and a monthly community support call on Zoom where you can ask me anything for $5 to $9 a month, cancel anytime. By the time you hear this, my November call is going to have already passed, but you can watch it in retrospect if you want. But our next one is going to be Saturday, December 14th at 9 a.m. Pacific time or noon Eastern time. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll leave that in the show notes as well. And that's it. I hope you found this helpful today. Thanks for listening. Good luck, and talk to you soon. Thanks so much for listening to The Anxious Love Coach today. If you loved this episode, please hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and maybe share it with someone that you believe might benefit from these perspectives. Please also subscribe to my email list at www.anxiouslovecoach.com as I'm trying to reduce my reliance on social media. In exchange, you will receive my free relationship anxiety meditation and more supportive tools sent your way. If you would like to work with me, head on over to my website at, again, anxiouslovecoach.com to explore different tiers of coaching options and online programs. Thanks again for listening, and catch you in the next episode. Have a blessed day.